Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and today I'm here with a bit of a stash build because I've discovered I've only got about 5 sheets of patterned wet strength tissue that I use for collage, and I need to make some more. So I thought I'd bring you along. I don't know how exciting the video is going to be. Basically, I'm going to make some coloured painty backgrounds, and then I'm going to use a new stencil to me, which is Peapod Vines by Chrissy Hartman, and I'm going to use this because I like the pattern, but I like the blocks within it. So what I'll do is I'll make painty backgrounds, and then I will use this to put on opaque contrasting pattern over the top, because all my collage pieces are probably going to be torn up and used in other things, and I like this. It's got an interesting vibe, should we call it. So I think it's just a case of get started, really. There are a couple of ulterior motives. I'm going to get started while I'm chatting for why I'm doing what I'm doing. I have lots of these sort of paints, craft paints, and I don't mind the ones that I know what's in them, but I've got lots of these sort of paints, which are basically where I've put down, I put end of tubes or end of bottles of paint within them, and basically just built up a colour that kind of is representative of orange, should I say. Now, I'm going to eventually try to change over to Lucas Krill, because I think I'm at that point in my life as an artist on my journey. I've always worked with inexpensive paints, and I want to start having a better quality paint because I want to start doing more art pieces on canvas and panels and things like that. Not to sell, I don't sell my art, but just so that I've got something. Does that make sense, where you want Barbie? So anyway, that's just where I'm at in my journey. So I'm just trying to use up odd bottles, and if I could just, what did I just do that for? Oh well, there you go, it's going to be one of those days. If I can use up some of the small bottles that I've got hanging around, then it will give me the option to actually have more space for the paints I do want to use. Right, now, as I said, my intent is not to overmix. I'm probably going to do maybe one of each colour combination. I don't need a huge amount. I just want bits. If I've got excess paint here, I'll either pick it up with the packaging paper, or if it's similar to the next color scheme I'm going to use, I may just add to it. So this first section of the video is purely going to be me just making 10 pages that look something like that, but in different colors. This does feel a bit like a mindless exercise, should I say, but it is a very creative exercise, and I would say it's a fun exercise because you never quite know what you're going to get. You also have no pressure. There's no expectation from yourself to do something absolutely perfect. Not, I'm hoping that any of us are trying to be perfect anymore. I'm certainly working on that one myself, but it's good to just let go. And as a couple of artists have said in the past, who I watch, it's about going through the process, learning the paints you work with. I misjudged that, so I'm going to try and extend it over to one side. It's a case of learning the paints you own, getting used to the mediums you work with, finding a theme, finding a style, if you want to call it. I'm not really keen on the word style, but it's a useful word, however, but finding what feels right for you, and you can only do that by playing. This will need some white on it, I can assure you. I'm just going to bring in a bit of green now. So I don't know how long it's going to last, this weather burst. I'm hoping this is the start of our summer. Could well be. This is green gold. The green gold is a colour I haven't used much in the past, but I'm really getting into green gold. I'm really enjoying it. Let's see, I've got a bit of Titan green pale. That's another favourite colour of mine. I think what I'll do is I will do the backgrounds, and then I might do a little bit of mark making on each of the sheets, purely to add a little interest in the background. But I need to be aware that the mark making I do needs to be small, because these solid lines here on the stencil are the only bits that are going to be left visible of the painty background I'm creating. I mean, there might be a strip down the side because the stencil doesn't go as wide as my plate, and I'm fine with that. So yes, it'll be interesting. I think I just hit you with my head. Sorry about that. Let's just steady that down a bit. It's the only trouble when you're filming with your iPad hanging over your head. I like that. That's nice and bright. If you do hear noises in the background, by the way, it's because I've got the windows open all the way through the house, letting the spring air blow through. And of course, as with everywhere in the spring, everyone's having their gardens done, or they're having their roof retiled, or they've got workmen in, or the council has decided that all the streets suddenly need cleaning after not being cleaned for such a long time. So if there's noises in the background, sorry guys, it's just life. It is absolutely just life. Right. I could have done with leaving these papers a little bit wider. It seems to be a little bit of a challenge to get those on there. I'm sure they'll be all right. That's another nice one. We talked about brown. Let's have a little bit of a mixture of brown. Now, I'm taking a little bit of a risk when I'm using like a high flow with a soft paint, with a tube paint. Mixing consistencies of paints can sometimes, well, this was becoming, I was going to have to be stood upside down, I feel. Mixing the consistency of paints can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge because they don't mix at the same rate when you mix the paints. But I'll stick it on, it's going on there eventually anyway. So just know that if you are playing around with consistencies, there are a couple of challenges, nothing that's not insurmountable. So it's just got, I'm still in shot. This plate seems to be moving around a bit. So as you can see, it'll get a bit soupy on here, but that's fine because I'm looking for, as I said, a mottled effect, just to give me a bit of a background. I can see I'm going to get 2 out of that amount of paint, which isn't a problem because I like these colours. See, that's a nice rich colour. I think if I add a little bit of yellow to this, I could just change it ever so slightly. This is just another one of the mixed bottles I want to try and get rid of eventually. Yeah, I think another reason I want to change to a different brand of paint, because basically the colours in all paints are all are the same. Like there's always a red, there's always a green, do you see what I mean? So they're all similar, but the quality of the paint will change the attributes of the paint. And I want to explore that. And also I wanted to renew my palette of paint colours, because looking back over the last year, I tend to migrate to exactly the same colours every single time. I have my favourites, as we all do, and it's time that I explored a little more the possibilities of variance in colours. So why have I got a square? Right, see, that just proves the point. I always work around the edge and forget the middle. Right, Mr. Middle, you are now dealt with. There you go. Now, I could be doing exactly the same thing on regular tissue paper. It wouldn't need to be wet strength tissue paper. I very often will do things like stamping and mark making onto regular gift wrap tissue and then add it as elements. I'll dilute down with matte gel medium when I'm doing a collage or an art journal page or something like that. So I'm just using wet strength because I think I've got a couple of three-dimensional projects coming up that I need a little bit more robust tissue for. And as I said, my stock of wet strength tissue is much depleted. So I'm making this video with you guys, but over the course of the next couple of weeks, I might have the odd day on my own of just building up papers. And I think beside that being a very productive exercise, it's good to do that occasionally because it gets you thinking. It gives me time to just stand here and mindlessly put out paint and braille it out and just have thinking time. And if there's anything my brain does a lot of, it's think, but there's think and thinking a thought all the way through to its final conclusion. And I find that I sometimes have an idea and never get it finished because I don't allow myself the time to play with that idea. So I like occasionally, what used to happen is I used to travel a lot for work. Like I used to travel to do my TV shows. I used to travel internationally to judge at competitions or host shows abroad. That sort of thing, demonstrate. So I did travel a lot. So I always had lots of time waiting at airports or stuck in the car for 8 hours or things like that. And that was really important to me. It gave me a chance to think. And I found now that COVID has kind of changed my life and I no longer do all of that traveling, I do find that I'm missing that downtime. Okay, I don't mind the little white spots, that's fine. So as I said, I'm missing that downtime. I'm missing that process time that I think we all need it. I mean, I don't know what you're like, obviously, but my brain does not stop. It just constantly is on the go. And I have been blessed with a very, very active imagination as far as coming up with ideas and stuff like that. And I think this YouTube channel of mine is evidence of that process. I mean, if you just flick through my videos, you'll see there's a varied topics, there's different designs, there's ideas. That's just the way. That's a little muddier than I thought, but I'll stick with that. But underlying all of that, there is definitely a very active imagination. I mean, I can see inspiration in nearly anything you show me, which is an absolute blessing and a gift. I'm just going to do almost a bit of a clean up on this one. It is a gift, and I never take it for granted, and I hope I never lose that joy of seeing inspiration in what I do. However, I mean, I have notebooks in every single room of my house. There's even one next to my bed. So if ever an idea pops into my head, I will write it down because I know in 2 minutes there's going to be express train go through my brain with another idea on it. So if it's a good idea or I really think, oh, that's interesting, I need to look at that, I will write it down. And all I do is basically, it could be 2 or 3 words I write on a bit of paper, but it's just enough to spark that memory for me to bring it back so I can work on it. So I do that a lot, and to me that's very important, which is why I don't think I'll ever run out of video ideas, because I've already got a composition notebook that's probably a third full of videos that I haven't yet made. Let's pull this off here. Good, it did pull off some. I just wanted to do the last one. Is it last one or last two? Last one. Oh, that's nice actually. That is quite nice. Pulled up some of the browns. I quite like that one. Well, I like all of them, or I wouldn't be doing them. But I want to do one that's got like purples and reds on it. And I've got this blue. Now, blue is one of the components of purple, so that's not going to be a problem. It's not going to clash. And as I said, I do intend putting contrasting colours into the background as I work. So let's see, a bit of pink. Let's have a bit of this pink, sort of a baby pink colour. Another reason I want to change paints too is if I've got something like this and I'm using it, I can tell you guys exactly what it is, should you like it. If you like this, I can't tell you what it is. It's just a mix match of colours that I've made up or put together, or just spare paints all amalgamated into one pot. And I need to change that habit, because it's not very fair on you guys if you're going, but Ceri, we don't know what you just did. Well, now I know that even if you knew exactly the same paints that I was using and you had exactly the same equipment, none of us can replicate 100% what each other does. That's called art. However, if it's a color scheme you're inspired by, or a technique and you want to try it with that paint, maybe not that color of paint, but even maybe just that brand, because there's something different about that brand of paint than the paint you're used to using. Let's sit on there for a second or two so I'll clean this up. So I want to try and get into the headspace of keeping my paints pure. I mean, it's going to take me long time to use up the excess paints I've got in those bottles. However, there will come a tipping point when I start going from one brand into the Lucas Krill. I'm also going to be dropping into, I can never remember the name of these, Winsor & Newton as well. Winsor & Newton is another favourite paint of mine, so I won't just be doing Lucas Krill. I will be doing Winsor & Newton, Lucas Krill, and probably Pebeo, because Pebeo is a paint I really enjoy, and that's this brand. It's a studio acrylic, this one, and the colours I usually use are their studio brands. It's not a craft paint, it's not a high-end professional paint, but the variety of colours within them, and they have a really nice creamy consistency when I use them, and they work beautifully on the gel plate. So Pebeo, know that I really like your paints, guys. I love them on my gel plate, and if ever you wanted to have a discussion about me promoting some of them, I'd be quite happy to have that discussion, because I've used them for a long time and I like them. So let's see where we're at with this one. Oh, that turned out nice. Just going to bring in one of the blue ones to see whether I can pick up anything that's residual on this plate, just because purple would go well with blue, as I've said before. Now, things like this packaging paper, great for doing stuff on collage with. I use it a lot. I like the fact that when you stick it down, it becomes quite soft, because it's not meant to be an art paper, it's a packaging paper. I also like the fact that it's usually recyclable, but it gets softer. So if I'm working in an art journal, and you know, sometimes where the center of the art journal curves in, it's sometimes hard to get papers in there. These, once they've got matte gel medium on them, will just soften up beautifully. Okay, that gave me something nice. I wonder if we get anything else on there. I think I'm pushing it at this point. I think everything's dry by now. Might even get a bit off there as well. There you go, that made that interesting. So I've now got my 10 colours ready. So this is just an A4 piece of presentation paper. I use this instead of copier paper. It's a bit thicker and it's whiter. So I'm just going to put a colour on here. Because I will build over the top of it eventually. Well, what's this? Titan Buff. There you go. That's a good pull colour. And just get some of this down here. And I can always stamp on this. I can do things with this afterwards. So let's just lay this down, and then we can get into the mark making thing that I want to do. Now, when it comes to mark making, I don't necessarily have to use foam stamps, cling stamps, anything. I can just use found items, or I can use mark making tools which I've made. And as you know me by now, you know that I do like to make my own mark making tools. And if they become very popular, I have no objection to then, when people request it, I have a conversation with PM Artist Studio, and if we think it's a viable design and there's enough requesting for it, I will then get it made as a foam stamp. Because to be honest with you, if you want it and I can make it for you and make it available for you, then I will. I mean, it's down to whether the design is something that would work as a foam stamp, which a lot of the time is why I create them out of cardboard, because that's almost like testing whether something will work in the first place. Right, let's put that over there. Now, well, that's there. Now, I don't want to, I just want to clean this off while I'm chatting. I don't want to do my mark making in black, because if I do mark making in black, there's a high possibility that the contrast paint I'm going to be using over the top is also going to be black. So I have to just be a little bit cautious, because I like the design of the pea pod vines. And if I pull them in black and there's other black things on there, it'll distort the way that that looks. Right, that can sit while we're working. Right, just a couple of basics. So I made these in a video the other week, so I will link this video. These are just, this is an example of what I said is I make things like a prototype a la carte. I thought I had another one of those, to be honest. I do, there you go, there's another one. I think this is the one I made in the video. And then I've got this non-stick draw liner thing. I've used this so much now, it's becoming stiff and inflexible. I use this so much, but the reason for that is I want a small pattern, because as I said, when I do the pull with this, the pattern's only going to be showing where the white is on here. So it needs to be fine or it's just going to be lost. So I'm going to bring all those in and we'll just jump between all of them. So I'm going to start with this one, which is the one we started with. And I think I want to put red into this. Quite a fiery red, I think. Well, what's this colour? Cherry. That's pretty fiery in my book. And we'll probably use the same colour on 2 or 3 of the pieces. Right, it looks like a semi-transparent, which is fine with me. So the first thing I'm going to do is just come in and put down a bit of a grid in different areas. Now I know, because I'm looking at this stencil, this area around here is going to be staying this colour because it's around the edge. So if I bring the pattern over slightly to the edge, that actually works in my favour because it means it's got something else on it. I'm going to bring in my larger spiral. Did I say I'm going to put this link in the description box for you? I think I did, but if I didn't, you'll find it in there. This one is a little bit tighter in its spiral. And then I'm going to use these triangles because I've only not used these. I've only used them in the video where I made them. Right, that should give me enough of that. So this one is now ready for the stencil work, which we'll do in a while. Now, because it's red, I'm going to put it on with green because that works for me, because I believe red and green are opposite on the colour wheel, which means it should work beautifully. And I've chosen this because this red is cherry and this is quite a dark green with some like lime undertones to it. And the reason I chose to do red on here is because it should end up looking fine and not looking Christmassy. Let's put a couple of those on there and maybe one of those. Or 2, there you go. Got me indecisive. Right, this blue one, there's red on there only very faintly, and I reckon if I did some white, it will, the colour that's on the plate and on the brayer may just pick up slightly and take the harshness of the white off. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I quite like, see it's got just a very faint bloom coming through where it's reactivating the paint below. That's fine with me. Also, I've still got the red on here. I am not worried if that comes across as well. More the merrier as far as I'm concerned. Where do I find this stuff? For me, it's my local pound store. It's my, what's it called? There's a store here in Britain called Home Bargains, which is an inexpensive store that sells everything from food to toiletries to plants. It's one of those stores. I'm sure you've got one. There's probably one in every city. Right, I'm just going to take that out of the way. I'm going to do the same with this blue one, primarily because I'm not sure what contrast color I'm going to put on top of this. It might be white, it might be cream. I don't really know. It's just, if I've got an opaque yellow, I might put an opaque yellow on because yellow would be a good contrast, so would orange. But again, as I said, I don't know at this point. I'm just doing this. I'm very much conveyor belt when I create papers like this. It's literally bang, 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 get them sorted. It's not like I have to have a thought process. This is not a complete work of art. This is a resource that will get used in other ways. Right, I think I'd like to put something brown into this. I know that's a bit predictable, but for once I think it needs to be something brown. This is quite a dark chocolatey brown. Yes, that's quite a dark chocolatey brown. Yeah, because something like this I would probably put the pods in the vine, may come to be in something like orange or cream. Actually, I could do turquoise on here. That would be or teal. That would be a good color to pick up with. Now, I don't clean these stamps because the more the paint builds up on them, the thicker these lines will become and the more uneven they will become and the more interesting they will become. So there are some foam stamps, not foam stamps, there are some cardboard mark making tools that I create that, let's see if I can reach it, like this one here, and there's a video on this as well. At the end of working with this, I run a paintbrush down here to clean out the grooves, because what would happen over time if I didn't clean it, the grooves would end up just closing up. And I really like this, and it's just spare cardboard, and or I think Americans call it chipboard, maybe, I'm not sure, but yeah, it's just spare cardboard from packaging and the backs of art pads. Let's bring in the other one of those. Now I think I'm going to let's add a touch of yellow to this, and it'll make a sort of muddy type of yellow colour, which also doesn't bother me. I say that a lot, don't I? Does it bother me? That's usually the question. Right, so there you go. That's sort of a greeny yellow, which is fine. And I've still got brown on here anyway. But I don't know what collage is, what art piece is, what anything this is going to be used with. So I don't actually know whether I will ever need this colour or whether this colour may inspire an entire piece. Who knows? I don't. This colour's reminding me of something and I can't think what it is. I don't think I'll put spirals on that one. Right, let's go with a lime green on this one. This sort of turquoisey colour. I get really confused with the difference between turquoise and teal. So many people I feel are the same. We call one turquoise and one teal, and then a company that produces paints will put out their version of teal, which looks just like the turquoise from another company. It's a tough one. Turquoise and teal really confuse me. The good thing is that I like both of those coloured paints. So if I end up calling it the wrong thing, please forgive me. It is just the way it is with paint colours. All of the different paint colours companies obviously choose their paints and name them, and there are ones that like cobalt blue, vermilion, raw umber, burnt umber. Those sort of names stick, but then when they get to mixing their own tones or shades or other colours, very often they get creative with the names, and there are some company names I'm like, really? What the heck were you thinking when you named that? Right, this sort of salmony orange colour. I think I'm going to do this colour on here again. Bit of a contrast. But then I did say I wanted some contrasty paper, so just smack it right in the middle. Have a look. Yeah, that's nice. I like that. It's funny, I think teal and turquoise, and I said both there on purpose, are colours that I find work really well with a lot of other colours. That's probably why I like them, because they're sort of a go-to colour for me. See, now if we look, let's see, I'll bring this up. If you look here, this is now beginning to thicken up, so it's giving me more variety of shape, more variety of line width. Now, I could come in and add another layer of mark making over the top of this, but that would defeat the object of what I'm planning to do. Right, so let's have a look. Let's start with you. Right, I quite liked this greenishness here. I'm wondering whether lime green on here would work, actually. Yes, why not? Let's try and do something a little bright. And actually, this colour may go, I'm glad this is becoming the end of a tube. It may go for the purple one as well. In fact, it would go for the purple one. That'd be quite a nice combination. Right, I'm not going to do a show and tell of the papers we've done so far before I do the next stage, because you're going to see them all anyway. So please forgive me on that. I'm trying to make sure the video comes in under an hour. And that's not because you guys don't like longer videos. Many of you have been very generous and said to me, Ceri, whatever length video you do is fine with us. For me, it's more about the upload time and the editing time, because this video will probably take, let's say, it could take, say, an hour and 20 minutes to film this video. However, it then takes 2 hours to edit the video down to below 1 hour. Then I have to save that video. Then I have to upload this video. So to create this video takes an entire day just to get it uploaded, edited, all of that. So that's why I'm always a bit picky about trying to stay as close to 1 hour as possible. And as with everything in life, there are always exceptions to the rule, and I do sometimes break that rule, and I will go over. I would be shocked and probably horrified if I ever managed to do a 2-hour video. That would, I just don't even know. I don't even know whether I've got enough memory on my iPad to do that. That was a good choice, actually. Right, let's bring this in. I do like this green. This was a green I kind of made up. It's almost a lime green. It's a very yellow green. I know that when I do eventually get my next order in for Lucas Krill, they do a fern green, which is this colour. A friend of mine, Mo Cook, just sent me a sample of it because I haven't been able to get it. It's out of stock. But I've spoken to Jackson, so it's coming in on the 25th. And I think this is going to be replacing this colour for me because I really like this colour. Also, I can just add a bit of yellow to this or part of it, and it would then make it much more like this. So I do like a fresh, vibrant green. It is very much in my wheelhouse to have a fresh, vibrant green. Right. Right. I'm going to pause the video for a couple of minutes because I need a bit of a clean up, because then I need to get into work. Actually, just had an idea. As I've got this paint here, if I can get this off here without tearing it. Oh, that's good. It's coming up lovely. I can put some of these marks on there. Now see, I didn't know there was that much stuff on that plate. So that's given me a good basis, so I can actually come in now and I'll just use what paint I've got here just to come in and add some mark making on here. I'll probably end up with the odd little bit on the plate again, making the plate dirtier, but that's fine. I mean, if I'd have put my colour, say I used white as my contrasting colour on my first pull, it would have come up looking very muddy and murky. So add a little bit of this green on here. And I wonder whether I can take that off there and add a little bit of that. This is how prints are made, guys. They just organically grow, and I use that word a lot. I know people are probably tired of me using the word organic, but it is what it is. It's the best descriptor that I've got, because when you're creating something that is unplanned, what do you call it? Spontaneous. Let's call it spontaneous. So there you go. That's the good start to a background for something else. And I'm back. So this again, this is stencil I'm going to be using. I'm going to stick the stencil down and I'm going to brayer the paint through it, lift the stencil, and then lift the pattern from here onto my papers. Now, I'm going to have to be careful because every time I use that method, whatever is left on the stencil, because I'm probably not going to be cleaning it, will start to impregnate the color I'm braying over it. So what I've done is I've selected my paint, so I'm going to try and work from white all the way through to the darkest color. So it'll reduce that as much as I can, but you know what? If it happens, it happens. My first two papers are going to be these, and I'm going to be using white, so I'm going to do 2 of each with this contrasting color, which is white, obviously. I am going to put it on my palette because then I can redo this once I've taken the stencil off here. Because it's got such a large pattern, it should be quite easy to relocate the stencil over the marks to rebrayer it on. As I said, periodically we may actually have to stop while I clean up both the brayer and the gel plate. Now, when you're using a stencil, no matter what stencil it is or what it's made of, it will add a certain thickness. So here you have to push down a little bit harder and maybe use a little bit more paint than you expected to get the pattern down in between, and that should give you a nice crisp design. Now, I'm not going to get worried if I miss the mark lining this up totally, because as I said, there is a border around it, and that border around it will actually mean that I've got options of using the bit where the paint was and using bits where the paint wasn't. I'm going to put it down and pull it up. If I wanted to make sure I lifted every bit of paint off there, I'd leave it for probably 20 minutes to half an hour and then pull it up. But we're doing what I call a quick pull. So see, that's giving me, oh, actually they look like bones, don't they, in that colour? As I said, I will come through after we've done all these and re-show them to you, so you've got to flip through. So as you can see, because there's quite large apertures, I know that I can reline the stencil up a bit. That's nasty paint sticking onto there. There is something else I could have done here, is I could have made a whole load of painty papers by doing what's called a long haul, which is where you do this process, but you then keep the stencil permanently on the gel plate, and you keep adding a different color. Then you'll put tissue on, clean it onto the tissue and pull it off, then leaving the stencil down where it is in place, come back through and do the same process again and again until you build up a whole load. I mean, I think I've done a long haul quite a while ago, actually. It's been a while since I've done a long haul. Maybe it's warming up to do another one, to be honest with you. But there's plenty of people who do long hauls. If you watch people who do gel printing, I can guarantee you will be familiar with the word long haul. Now I have white on here. My next color is going to be pink. If it turns out really pale pink because of the white, that probably wouldn't bother me anyway. So I'm just going to lift this off here. Let's give me another interesting one. Now, in the interim, this is where I said I may need to clean up. So what I'll do is I will use my cleanup papers to lift this off. And the benefit of that is these get patterned as well. I'm not about to waste paint when I can use, I mean, that's interesting on its own. If I've got paint left on my brayer, I will probably just brayer it off onto one of these sheets. I don't mind the little residue of paint on there, but if the paint's all on there, it might cause me a few issues. Let's just quickly see if I can take off any of this ghost from here. Probably not. I don't mind leaving a little bit of white on here because, as I said, the next colour is going to be a pale colour. And that colour is this colour pink. And I'm going to put the pink onto the green one and the blue one. So let's bring in the stencil again. Now there is a coating of paint on this stencil. I've got it upside down, I've got it upside down. There is a coating of paint on this stencil from my brayering out before. That colour is likely to transfer across to the colour I'm going to be brayering on as well. I'm not overly bothered at that, as I said. It doesn't affect me. If I wanted to, I could do what was called a flop off, in that when the paint was still wet, I could have laid it on another piece of paper, given it a rub and pulled it off quickly. But there is a real big danger that a UPO stencil, and I don't know about other stencils, I only use UPO at the moment. If you put a UPO stencil with paint onto paper, then there's a good chance it will stick to the paper. Right. It looks like I probably put too much pink out. We'll use it. So just come in. All of the paints I'm choosing to do this part of the process with are highly likely to be opaque. I want the opacity to give me the drama of the stark contrast. That opacity will also depend on how thickly I roll the paint out. So there's contributing factors, guys. What's the worst case scenario? It doesn't give me the result I want, and I just make over the top. So never be put off. Everything is useful and everything is play. Keep it as play, and then you will enjoy your art far more than adding a layer of stress to your life because you're always worried, is it going to be right? See, now these papers are not finished. Once they get put into a collage, I'm likely to stamp or paint or scrape over the top of them. So again, I've got this down. I'm using this big spot here basically as my locator to try and get the design exactly what it was before. I think I'm going to go to a darker pink actually. I'm going to put a bit of magenta in this, because I think this colour green could carry it. And hopefully I'm not toying with fire here. Just a little bit on there, I think. Just to add a bit of variety. Let's see how much I can get down into these apertures. I think this one's probably going to come out almost as a semi-transparent, because the layer of paint is quite thin. Let's take that off there again. Lay this on there. Now the next paint I'm going to go to is orange, and I don't particularly want to have pink on there because pink and orange is going to make coral or peach, and peach is certainly not the colour I want. So I'm just going to come in and clean up this as much as I can. I don't mind leaving this for a few minutes. What that's doing is it's gripping all of the paint that's already down there, and hopefully it'll clean it up really nicely for me. I don't expect it to be a spotlessly clean plate when I'm finished, but it needs to be a little better than it is. So let's see where we got to. There you go. I'm glad I did that one slightly darker. So there you go. That's just a bit of a wipe down. If I wasn't continuing with the process, I could have left that on the plate, and then in a future video, it would have in a future project, it would have picked up just as a bit of grunge on the plate. So I'm now going to go to an opaque orange, and it's a dull orange. It's not a vibrant orange, and I'm going to use it on my blue one, and I'm actually going to use it on this one. So it's going to be a bit more subtle when it's on the terracotta colour. Good shape to make all the pigments are out. bring in my plate. Now the paint on here is slightly wet. I could have come in with a wet wipe and wiped it down, but then I've got a wet stencil. So I'm just going to continue with my process and hope that the pink doesn't do too much damage to the orange I'm adding. It probably won't. It dries quite quickly, especially on a day like this, which is really nice and bright and warm. And you don't hear me saying that too often, I can tell you. This is an opaque paint, but because of its viscosity, in that it's quite a fluid paint, I'm probably not going to get a solid block color. I'm going to get some transparency, which will give me more of a subdued pattern than a bold pattern, which, whether it's a good idea or not, I don't know. I'm just letting it do what it needs to do. Let's sit for a second. And if it does turn out that it's the wrong color, then before I do this one, I will change to another color. Oh, it was okay. It's come out more of a browny color than what I was looking for. I think I'm going to go with it on this one. I think that effect might be quite nice for what we've just done. So, as I said, this isn't a page in my art journal. It's not an art piece. It's not a canvas. It's not a panel. It's just papers to be torn up. So the pressure isn't on me to make fabulous art pieces, is what I'm trying to get at. I mean, obviously the artist in me wants to make something absolutely beautiful, but these are the ingredients for my recipe, and I'm hoping that they will result in a beautiful piece of art when they're all incorporated. And you will probably see these in future videos where they'll creep up, because most of my creativity is done in front of you guys anyway. Now I think I'm going to do a really quick thing here just to show you something. So there's paint on this stencil, and there's a lot of paint on this stencil, which is why I'm doing this. And if I come in and press this down, and I have to be quick, this is a new stencil, therefore it's likely to stick to the paper. But if I now lift this up, it's taken some of the paint off. So therefore that would be called a flop off. For those of you who are not used to terminology, that's what that would be. Actually, that was really, really subtle. I'm not sure it gave me what I was looking for, but I can see it. It may dry differently, but I can see it, and I'm okay with that. So here I am. This is the Payne's Grey that I'm using. This is the two tissues I'm going to use. Now, as I said, Payne's Grey is sort of really a blue-black or a blue-grey. It depends your interpretation of it. I really, really love this colour, and the reason this is second to last is because the last colour is black, which means I don't have to delete the plate in between. Now, I did mention a long haul. I don't do long hauls very often, but if a long haul is what you would like to see me do, please let me know, and I will schedule into my diary to do a long haul for you guys. Oh, that's a bit of a... No, it's not. I ordered it, didn't I? Did I order it? Yes, I did. There you go. So running out of that, having that. I'm loving that. So I can swap to that shortly. I'll put that upside down just in case I need it. Right. It's quite a bit of paint here, but did I hit you with my head again? No, I didn't. So come through here. Yeah, so if you want to see me do a long haul, let me know and I will schedule in a long haul. What it will do, it will mean I'll use one stencil and probably make, oh gosh, I could make any number of pulls from it. So we will see, guys. We will see. If you want it, I will do it, obviously. I might reach out to my designers and find a stencil and go, hey guys, send me a stencil. I want to do a long haul. Which one would you recommend? I need to think that one out. So I've got some reasonably fun things coming up. In June, I'm going to do 2 collaborations, very excited about that. One is just a one video. It should only be a one video. It's something I'm beginning to do as an annual thing with another friend of mine who's a designer. You all know the name, but I'm not going to tell you just yet because it needs to be a surprise. And then I'm going to do another challenge, which is just me personally challenging someone else that I know, and we're going to make painty papers and then swap those painty papers and then make something from it. So it's going to be one of those swap and make, or make and swap, or whatever you want to call it. I like doing those because then it puts me out of my wheelhouse. Well, that picked up nicely. Oh, I'm loving that. You can see the blue now, can't you? That really deep, it's almost an indigo blue, but it's not indigo blue. Don't quote me on that one, but it is almost like a really, oh gosh, like a Wrangler jean blue. It's very, very dark, and I love that. I love the drama of that. Right, I'm definitely going to have to add more of this paint. Actually, if I turn that upside down, it'll remind me it's running out. That's not even anywhere near the center of that plate, is it? There you go. Right. When you're doing processes like this, if you have a clean plate and a clean or a new stencil, the stencil is likely to stick to your plate and your paint is not likely to go underneath the pieces of your stencil. If there's layers of paint on your stencil, it can't make good contact with a plate, and if it's a dirty plate, paint won't stick to paint unless paint is wet. Okay, just where I'm going with this one. So know that there are things you have to be watching out for. Oh, will you stop hitting the flipping camera, Griffiths? I need to adjust the setting, obviously. It's moved. Oh, and little bubbles in that too. Right, now I know we're going straight on to black, but I'm going to pull this piece in that we were working with before and just pick up the remnants of that off there. And I've got quite a bit on here. Let's slide that out the way a second, because if I bring these two in, I think there's enough paint on here to do a half decent flop off. Now, if you've got a clean brayer, which I happen to have, you can brayer this down to really flatten the paint out. Do not use the brayer that you've been brayering with, or you just fill it all in with paint. Again, get it back off there as quick as you can so it doesn't stick. But see, it gives you more collage stuff. Come back here, mister. Well, something that was a clean-up sheet is definitely getting better in my books. Right, so these are my last two prints. I expect to have a really dramatic thing from that. This is Mars Black. Let's pop our stencil down. People ask, do I clean my stencils? Very rarely. I will clean a stencil if it's got really small little apertures that could start to fill in with paint, but I'm quite good at keeping my stencils clean during the process I'm doing them, as in making sure the apertures aren't filling up with paint as I use it. So I'm quite good at doing that. I will, however, soak a stencil or clean a stencil if it's got a lot of tiny apertures that I'm beginning to lose the integrity of the pattern. Lift that off there. Let's pop this onto this one. That's what I was expecting, a nice bit of drama. Actually, there's enough on there that I think I'm just going to go straight on to the next one and pick it up, because I did put quite a bit of Mars Black on there. Right, and I've got plenty of Mars Black here, so I can do a number of things. I can either come in and do some more stamping on some of these, or I could just use it up on my background papers, which I might just do. There you go. I knew that was going to be a nice one. So before we do a flip through of them, let's take a quick look at some of the cleanup pieces that I've actually kept to go directly into the collage drawer. The other cleanup ones will just go into the cleanup papers drawer so I can use them in the future. Really quite like this. There's some interesting pieces within here that if I was doing a nature journal or a nature background, some of these colors would work really well. So that's an interesting one. This was another one too. I kept this more to remind myself I quite like these colors together, to be honest. That's got a really, again, quite a nice naturey feel to it. This was just a flop off I did after I turned the camera off. I just turned the stencil over and pressed it down on here. Again, interesting grunginess. And this was that one piece of presentation paper. Again, interesting. I will probably do more on top of this as time goes by. So those were the cleanup sheet. Now let's have a little look at the actual papers. So this was I've done them in order. I think I've done them in order. I like that. That's nice. I don't even mind there's little flecks in it. I know this is Peapod Vine, but to me there's something about this that looks like bones. It's funny how we all see different things, but these look like vertebrae and these look like tibias and fibulas and toe joints and finger joints. I don't know, something about this just reminds me of bones. And now I've seen it, I can't unsee it. Here's the next one. Again, liked this. You can now see why, if I could pick it up, you can now see why I kept the pattern in the background small, just so it can be seen. And of course, I will have complementary strips now of the color and the pattern without the stencil pieces on, so I could use it somewhere else in the same piece. This one, I don't rate this as a huge success. In hindsight, I should have gone and made the pink with white and a touch of maybe permanent magenta or something. This is a little bit too transparent for me. This one is probably going to get another coat of something. Now, some of you are probably going to say, well, Ceri, you can hardly see that. Actually, I can see that. And I mean, if I lift it up to the light, maybe you can see a bit of what I'm seeing. I'm not sure it's truly coming through on the camera, but it's subtle. And yes, I will use this like this. This one again, the orange one, it dried a little more transparent than I expected it to be. There is something I could do with this once everything is totally dry and I've wiped off the stencil, but it's still got paint on it. I could lay the stencil back over this and actually sponge orange through just to intensify that. Not sure about that one yet. Loved this one. Come on, one at a time, please, people. This Payne's Grey one, absolute, but then I love Payne's Grey. This just, I love this, it's beautiful. I'm trying to see what else could be seen within this. I mean, those could be really funky teeth, couldn't they, on a smile? I see things, guys. I see things in other things. Like the orange and the black. I expected to like the orange and the black. I like the drama. I also like these little areas where there must have been tiny air bubbles, because even though the wet strength tissue is wet resistant, when you put it onto a wet surface, it will crinkle and give you these markings, and I don't mind those. Those are interesting to me. The purple one, I like the drama of it. Part of me is questioning whether I should have done maybe a pale grey on here, but at the end of the day, I will use this. I mean, there's sections of this that are really lovely. There's sections of this that are really interesting. And then the sections I think are quite boring, but I've got a variety. I knew I would like the lime green and the black. Why wouldn't I? I also quite happy because this was a secondary pull or a ghost pull. And I like the fact that it's really faded here and it's quite dark up here. So that's given me an extra 10 pages and an extra 4 pages here that will go into my cleanup, into my collage drawer. So I'm happy with those. I'm happy. Productive day. Don't know how long the video is. I'm sure it's under an hour. So guys, I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time, goodbye now.